What's up,
Ron.
everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily podcast powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. It is championship week. The quest for number 6 continues. I'm on cloud 9, man. There's nothing that could knock me off here. It is a great time to be a Cane. Obviously, nervous, anxious for the game. We've broken it down. We had Josh Pate yesterday. You can see that segment on YouTube. Unbelievable. The film guy, Brooks Austin, had him on the show with Mike Ryan. Check that segment out on YouTube. And then today, later on in this show, we will have Landon Tangwall, former Penn State offensive lineman who has been killing it with content. He has broken down this game in a million different ways. He is really doing a great job. I know a lot of Canes fans love what he's doing. He's been a guest on the show. We want to bring him back as much as we can, and he is excited for this matchup. So we talk about that one here at the end of this program. Portal talk, you know we're going to get to that because that is 99% of what people are texting me and Pete. The other 1%'s tickets. We had a big game on Monday. I don't know if you guys have read about it. Anyway, so folks that always have their game face on, Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anajar and Levine. Pete, hop in.
D, good morning.
Canes Cat says, you could tell D just got out of the shower. I just got out of the shower. It was I had to wait. I went to sleep late, woke up early. I had to drop my kids off, or my son off. He's going to Epcot field trip. So then I went to sleep. My daughter was sick. She woke me up. She's like, Papa, you have a show. You have a show in 30 minutes. You have a show in 30 minutes, Papa. So here we are, baby. Talking Portal, ready to rock and roll.
You're losing that much sleep over the QB search that you're losing, that you're going to sleep late, or what's going on?
Great question. I put on some headphones. I went walking past the Fontainebleau, which is the team hotel, right? I went walking on the beach a little bit, late night walk. Put some Beethoven string quartets on the headphones, just getting in the mood, and I'm feeling great. I'm just grateful for this opportunity. Did think a lot about the portal, but you know what? I don't look at it anymore.
That's a lie.
The desperation.
That's a lie.
It's all true.
Lie.
I was thinking about it.
You definitely were thinking through scenarios.
Oh, I was thinking a ton of scenarios. What I was thinking about was, look, we got the best team in the country. We got the best opportunity for a quarterback in the country. We got a lot of money, as Ty Simpson said through his Lego set. So we got a chance to land a really, really, really good quarterback who's going to have a great opportunity to win a Heisman and win a championship. So I feel great.
I hope so, man. And I know they're working, and we know they're working. We'll talk through some of this stuff here as it's the final hours of the QB search. It really is. I mean, these guys got to enter the portal because, again, for those who have not been following along these last couple of weeks with us, at this point, Miami's quarterback most likely next year is going to be someone who's not in the portal right now. So
yeah, I agree.
We are now looking at any and all options, a lot of which is, as we've talked about here, guys who maybe haven't either publicly announced or, maybe they've announced but haven't actually signed the paperwork to return. There's some stuff coming out yesterday. I know Matt Shodell from Kane Sport D interviewed CJ Bailey's father.
Yeah, let's start there. Pete. So, as Wicked Noise says, manifesting Bailey, let's go. So, yeah, shout out to Kane Sport, Matt Shodell. They interviewed CJ Bailey's father and asked, has CJ Bailey signed his contract to return to NC State? He announced he was returning. Has he signed his contract? His dad said, no comment, which to me, no comment means this thing's alive. I don't know that for sure. We all hear our different buzzes from across South Florida. If I were to bet, I think it is still alive. And I keep going back, Pete, to the Matt Campbell, Penn State. I never thought they should have got rid of Franklin. It got stale, whatever. They parted ways. When Penn State got rid of Franklin, first thing we talked about, okay, well, get Matt Campbell easy. He's proven coach. He's pretty close to, your area. He's not going to be unfamiliar with your type of recruiting grounds. He's an incredible evaluator of talent. He wins every year. He's still pretty young. He has reasons to leave. No brainer. He can bring his guys and kind of kickstart the rebuild. Easy choice. Didn't go that way. They went and tried to get the guy from BYU, which seemed like a long shot on paper. It certainly turned out to be a long shot. They didn't get him. He was like ready to go. Then he changed his mind. Whole thing was a disaster. They missed out on a ton of other targets. Other targets went elsewhere to other coaching jobs. So now you're looking at it like Penn State just got rid of a coach who's one of the winningest coaches in the sport. Missed their top target. Other guys got off the board. They look like idiots. And what happened? They ultimately got the guy they should have gotten with their first call. So what I'm hoping, as someone who, and we both are on the same page here, we have both been saying from the beginning, CJ Bailey is the choice that makes sense. He's 6'6". He is already a good ACC quarterback at 19 years old. He
putting up better numbers than Mendoza was putting up last year at Cal.
Ahead,
which, by the way, Cal's offensive line was bad, but he had some talent around him. We come to find out.
No question about that. He had receivers and running backs that played in other places. Mendoza did, and Bailey has some talent too. Now, some of those guys went.
Those guys are now going on other places as well. I agree. Hollywood.
He had better stats. Bailey did at 19 years old. He is a great kid by all accounts. He's obviously a smart guy. He started as a true freshman. You can't do that if you're not a smart guy. He can run. He's still getting bigger. He's made huge strides since he was the biggest similarity with Mendoza, besides their height and their location and good character. Every year from their junior year, they made big strides. Like Mendoza as a junior was a zero prospect. As a senior, he was an Ivy League prospect. As a freshman, he was able to redshirt at a Power 4. Redshirt freshman, he started, and then redshirt sophomore year, he broke out. Now redshirt junior, won the Heisman. Those steps, you're seeing the same thing with Bailey. Bailey as a junior could barely throw. At least he had good throwing numbers, but his release was terrible. Kept getting better. Started as a true freshman. Took a step as a true sophomore. And now here we go. So I think you put him in a better situation with more physical development. That's what he needs. He's a skinny guy who's getting bigger every day. More of just age. More technical development because he's getting coached at a college level. His release has gotten better every year. And he already has 20-something plus starts. The experience is going to continue to rise in the conference experience. I think this guy could be a big-time player, not just a guy that gets you stabilizes your program, but a guy that elevates your program. No brainer for me. I take that comment to mean he's still alive. Do the right thing, everybody involved. CJ Bailey should be a Hurricane.
Yeah, and you just said it. Scuba Steve asking D-Money, the real question is, does Bailey sign the paperwork to return to NC State? That no comment answer can only, I mean, look, it's a straightforward question. If the answer is no comment, it to me means one, no, he didn't sign it, or yes, he did, and they're trying to figure out a way to get out of it. That's my interpretation of it. That's the only reason I have a no comment there. So
Canes305 said, we tailgated next to CJ Bailey's whole family during the NC State game this year. He joked with his dad about his son. Call me next year. They were saying, and they all seemed excited. So it sounds like the tampering's been going on for a minute there, Pete. We're not the only tamperers.
How could you not be excited if you're his family about that opportunity if it arose?
His left tackle where at Texas A&M, I think, Jakory Peak. His best receiver, Terrell Anderson, is at USC. He lost.
They lost another one to
Texas.
They lost another receiver to another big time program. I think they lost one to Bama too. So, but he'd be coming back home, and look, it's well documented what happened with his high school recruitment. Miami really got in there much later than they should have, but this is such, we talk about how much this is a business. And when you say it's a business, you can't just mean money when you talk about this stuff. When you say it's a business, money is very important. I'm sure Miami would compensate him very well to play here. But if it's a business, you can't let your feelings get in the way. And this is both sides. This is Miami and Bailey's side, if it came to, because I've been saying, hey, isn't there sour grapes there? Because Miami, I'm sure at one point, they were not happy that Bailey wasn't the family and him. And they shouldn't have been happy.
We wouldn't have been happy either.
Right. So But business is business. Miami has been a very good business destination for quarterbacks the last 2 years. If we talk about business, we talk about helping draft stock, putting you in a position to get yourselves in a better light with these scouts. Coming to Miami and leading a championship level program now, as we see a program that should very much be in that discussion to not only be a playoff team, to be a top 4 seed. You can't feel a certain type of way about what happened 3 years ago in the recruiting process when you have the power in the situation now if you're the player, right? That's how you flip it on the people. And look, he can keep that chip on his shoulder, but business is business. And if it comes to it, I'm not telling the guy what decision to make. Obviously, NC State, you got to give their coaching staff credit and all that for getting him to this point and believing in him, and he's played a lot of football there. But if he wants to take his game to the next level and his opportunity to up his draft stock, I think it happens here at Miami.
Yeah, I could not. You said it very, very well. It is what it is. He does have some power now. Maybe he squeezes a little extra money. That's between the parties. However they want to kind of get
more
there.
Power to him, man. And guess what? He might as well put that tax on top.
Put the tax on top. Listen, I agree. I mean, look, I hope every party does their best. And I know, obviously we love Canes Connection and University of Miami, but if that happens, it happens. That's just kind of how these things go. Someone compared him to Jakory Harris. Let me see the comment. The taller Jakory Harris. I think Jakory Harris, first of all, Jakory Harris threw the ball pretty well. It's not like Jakory Harris was a total dud, right? Jakory Harris threw a lot of touchdowns for us. Now, he had issues with interceptions. The situation around him was nowhere near as healthy as what we have going on right now. So that's a big difference. Obviously, Bailey is bigger than Jakory. He has been putting on weight slowly. Jakory put on weight. Jakory's big now. So these guys could all put on weight. I think with the difference between him and Jakory, again, I think Jakory if you put Jakory in these offenses, he's a pretty good college player. I mean, he was pretty good without these offensive lines. But Bailey is faster. Like Bailey runs like 40-yard runs, and it looks like he's jogging. I mean, he has long strides. And then I think Bailey, his ability to drive the ball, talking about digs, talking about deep outs, talking about skinny posts, those just right over the middle, really pushing the ball. I think he has more of an ability to drive the ball than Jakory, which is what separates him, along with the size, the running. Some things are similar, but Jakory Harris, I mean, it didn't suck. He had issues that our bad situation kind of amplified. I don't think CJ Bailey has all the same issues, and I think CJ Bailey definitely would have a much better situation and has just more upside and more talent. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I agree. And as a Jakory guy, I think really it's just what's in place right now in Miami is just a whole different ball game. Not only from the O-line standpoint. I mean, look, there were some good skill position talent. Let's not Jakory had some of that, but I just don't think that the structure was in place in terms of the coaching and everything that you have. It's just such a proven thing right now. The pass protection is best in the country. So if you're pretty much a lot of moving parts, we can't guarantee it's going to look exactly the same, but you have to have a good idea that it'll be one of the handful best in the country.
Look at this comment from BF. He says, Bailey should negotiate for championship game tickets.
Got a suite as part of his package, yeah.
That's an expensive part of the package. But yeah, someone could correct me on this, but I think he lives he's from Miami Gardens. Like he's from Dade. I think he's from Northwest Dade. So he's from around there. So, I mean, the stadium where they're playing the championship game is right by where he grew up. Like you said, Pete, at some point you see that and you're kind of like, am I just going to say no to that? Got out of pride when I don't have a better situation on the other side of it that's going to give me a chance. Like if he was on a good team where he's like, listen, I'm going to beat those guys. Okay. But you didn't even have a chance when you played Miami. It was like not even the same universe last time he was in that building. You saw it. I mean, it was ugly.
Yeah. No, I mean, and look, this isn't – Bailey wouldn't be still, as we've said, they're working through, I think, a number of potential options. And I don't think Bailey's the only guy on the board. It's just there's a lot of reasons it makes sense.
Yep. And I want to kick it to you on the other potential option. And this is, let's call it informed speculation. I mean, this is putting a lot of different pieces together here, but I think these are the two names that make the most sense. And we're talking about one of them. Before we get off CJ Bailey, I kick it to you, Pete. TJ Preble says that CJ Bailey reminds him more of Jalen Daniels. People are going to say, oh, that's a crazy comparison. The defensive coordinator for Florida State. So we're watching the bowl game. This was against Memphis, right? NC State against Memphis. Bailey lit him up. They killed it. NC State killed Memphis. Bailey had a great game. Bailey's on the sideline. The announcers are talking about him as a future Heisman. Meanwhile, the CanesInSight message boards, 7.8 million posts and counting. Love you guys. They were kind of like, oh, we better not get this guy. Even as the announcers were talking about him as a Heisman. It was a funny dichotomy. Probably similar to how Mendoza might have been a year before. But I digress. The announcer said they talked to the defensive coordinator for FSU who played NC State this year, Tony White, and that Tony White compared Bailey to Jalen Daniels. Take it for what it is. Obviously it's game week. They kind of sometimes will fluff their opponent. We get it. But that's what the FSU defensive coordinator.
Are we talking about Jaden Daniels, Jaden Daniels, the Redskins?
Yeah, sorry, am I saying Jalen and Jaden? Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and that's why I was confused because Jalen Daniels is the Kansas QB.
Yeah, no, sorry. Okay. I get these guys mixed up all the time. Not the Kansas quarterback. We're talking about the quarterback for the Washington Commanders. And that's who the defensive coordinator of the Florida State Seminoles compared CJ Bailey to after. I think this is after. So it wasn't before the game hype. After playing him and losing to CJ Bailey. So I'm not saying that's what he's going to be. I'm just, that comparison that was made in the chat has been made by people who have played against him in the ACC. Teams on Miami's schedule that we have to play. So that one makes the most sense to me. We're trying to speak it into existence. We're going to keep on pushing until the universe brings it in. Carson Beck, we said it before it was even a thought of UM. And people were like, what are you guys talking about? You guys speak it into existence sometimes. So we'll see. But anyways, Pete, another name, which I know you got you said you dropped the name in the Discord and people went ballistic. I got 75 text in the chat.
Well, I got to say, and I appreciate everyone who's on the Discord. I'll drop the link here in the comments in a second. But I really, when we did that show a couple days ago, D, I have to say that it was an afternoon show. It was like Tuesday afternoon. And we were just sitting there trying to work through any possible quarterbacks out there that have eligibility left. Maybe, like we said earlier, maybe they've announced, maybe they haven't. Fafita, there were some ties with Miami a couple of years ago. And just looking at his situation, he only announced on the field after the bowl game that he was coming back in unfinished business. Maybe in the heat of the moment, the emotions were running high after the game. Didn't put anything out there publicly. Very productive player. Really, he had a dip the year that Jed Fish left to Washington. Dip in production there, 18 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. But sandwiched between a couple really solid years. The completion percentage, not exactly where, it was 60% 2 years ago, 64% this year. We're spoiled, I guess, with what Beck and Ward have done in that respect the last couple of years. But I think if you get him in Miami's offense, his efficiency would improve. Protected the football this year, 29 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. The offense, I think he'd be a pretty good fit in what Dawson likes to do. Not the biggest guy in the world, and that would be a bit of a difference from what we've seen. He doesn't bring that physical aspect to the position, but I think he could operate in this system at a very high level. And then so I mentioned that name out of speculation. Then I started to hear some things yesterday. The name just from the agent world kind of was sent my way, so just to clarify, because we have to understand where a lot of this information comes from. This is not coming from Miami side, but when stuff kind of percolates in the agent world, there tends to be some smoke there.
Yeah, especially with this in this portal era, where the
And I
agent
will
can work.
say, I will also say this too, just on the position in general, D. Talking to a guy who's very, an agent who's works with a lot of high profile players, right, at a respected agency. Basically, word for word, he said roster's too good to mess this up. Think they figure it out in terms of the quarterback position. So this is not just a one. Again, there's word out there that Miami is looking, searching every avenue here. And I tend to agree with that sentiment. So we'll see. It is kind of it's kind of getting dicey here as we're talking about, but I still believe.
Yeah, and I think you tell me, Pete, from the agent side, do you think agents, because I got to think agents are probably pushing teams more towards Miami than anybody else
In terms of the quarterback position or in
terms of
general?
the quarterback position, based on what the money is and what the opportunity is and how guys have elevated their
if especially you're talking about it's between Miami and Tennessee right now.
Yeah.
There's not really I think the only reason Tennessee was in the mix for Ty Simpson was because he was a Tennessee kid. Miami has a lot of juice right now, and these same agents represent players on the offensive side of the ball and are asking me, hey, do we know who it's actually going to be? Because I got guys who are waiting and they want to come to Miami. So that is always a legitimate factor here with things. Now, you also have guys who like Cam Vaughn and Jacobs who just believed that Miami's going to get a guy and they trust the situation altogether. But
yeah, no, it's going to be, I like the fit. I like his fit with no pun intended, Fafita in Miami. I think Bailey's a better fit just with his size, the local tie, the whole thing. Fafita is a playmaker. He can make a lot of things happen. He's a passer first. He can run, but I don't think he's a runner. I think you compare him in most recent history to like a De'Ara King, but I think he's probably more of a passer than King. King probably more of a runner. So, question here from
Steve says that we're going to make the Hurricanes make the worst decisions to bring in a quarterback from the portal, though we're thirsty for no reason. Listen, Steve, appreciate your support as always. And I appreciate you thinking we have the pool to
I wish we did
make certain decisions, man. We'd have CJ Bailey locked up already if that was the case.
He'd be wearing that. What's that shiny Adidas logo you had yesterday?
Oh man, that thing was the Frosty Tips Adidas.
He'd have the Frosty Tips Adidas right now. AJ123 appreciation support says, with everyone knowing about the $6 million being offered, how does that affect negotiations for other players if true? It's a good point. Not good. Doesn't help. You say, Pete, having that number. I mean, it helps to get them interested, but it doesn't help if you want to get them for less than $6 million.
It depends what the caliber of quarterback is. I still think that Ty Simpson had the first round signing bonus money kind of as that threshold that you're negotiating against. I don't know let's say if Fafita were to make 1.5 mil next year, is he saying no to $3 million, $3.5 million? I doubt that he is, but that's my read on it.
So 2 guys visiting this week today that are not quarterbacks, but I wanted to get to them here quick, Pete, which is actually, before that, let's give a shout out to our boy, the OrchidMan, OrchidMan Florida, South Florida's official landscape artisans. You heard him on the show yesterday. Our boy was on the job at the job site, getting his hands dirty. 786-271-0332. South Florida's landscape artisans. They will take care of your landscape, residential, commercial, you name it. They make landscape maintenance easy, whether it's residential or commercial. Irrigation, tree stump grinding, hurricane prep, all the dirty work, they will take care of it at OrchidMan Florida, OrchidManFlorida.com. Also, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No, please.
No. Do your plugs.
These aren't plugs, Pete. These are expressions of love for some great companies, including University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute, which has helped our players stay healthy for this championship run. If you don't have to be Keontae Scott, you could just be a normal active person who likes to play sports on the weekend, but you know how hard it is to sit on the sideline with a pain or injury. If compromising your movement or performance is not an option, call the experts at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. Doesn't have to be the elite athletics at UM, but it can be, but it can also just be everyday movement, and they will help you get on your game and recover your game. So go to UHealth Sports and set your appointment today at the University of Miami Sports Medicine Institute. A couple of visitors, Pete, from Gabby, 247, just dropped a post. 2 visitors that are visiting today. Shout out to Gabby. One of these guys we talked about in the bank. I'll start with the name that is newer to me. I took a look at him yesterday because Gabby mentioned him, which is Keona Davis, 6'5", 275 pounds from Nebraska. He was a starter for them. D-tackle, kind of D-end hybrid, 6'5", 275, 32 tackles, 3.5 for loss, 1.5 sacks, 2 years of eligibility remaining. Split time really between defensive end and defensive tackle, but played a bunch of snaps. I watched some of this guy, number 97. He's from Tucson, Arizona, was a high 3-star, goes to Nebraska. Apparently he extorted them for money last year as far as like the FSU style where like, hey, I'm leaving, give me a raise to come back.
Which, by the way, you saw the Desir twins were extorting the last week here, and they actually didn't enter the portal until yesterday.
They're going to get some money from somebody. Hey, how'd they get the money from someone else? Let them go to Ohio State. Although, truthfully, I don't know if I'd rather have them at FSU or Ohio State. We're going to beat FSU. We might have to worry about Ohio State in the playoffs. But either way, this guy, watching him, really, really good frame. The classic DN, D-tackle hybrid, but a big-bodied hybrid. You know, he looks big when he's on the field. He can move. He's athletic. But apparently, Nebraska fans are kind of tired of his act because they're just like, well, you took us for more money, and now you're leaving. But the truth is, this guy's a talented player, and I think he could help a lot of teams. I can see why Miami's interested. Look good. Like, he looked like a guy that you put him in pads and put him on the field against Indiana. He wouldn't look out of place because of his physical dimensions and the way he was moving. So I don't think you'd bring him in to be like a Damon Wilson. That's a different sort of pursuit where you'd bring him in to be like, hey, you're replacing Bain or Messidor, just kind of being that guy that's trying to be a first-round pick. Keona Davis would be, hey, you're going to get coached. You're going to bring versatility. We're going to get you in better shape and take you to another level. That, to me, is how that one looks.
Yeah, good body type. I think veteran body as well, which, as we've seen, has been important for this group. We'll see. I think obviously Wilson's still the focus there, but I'll take all the bodies you can get in there.
Yeah, I think he's more of a DT than Wilson. So like, I don't think they'd be one or the other kind of deal. But by the way, what happened to your lighting? You look like a detective. You're like in that. You got that detective lighting.
The sunlight just came in here. I'm gonna see if I close this up. Try to get that natural lighting.
Dude, it looks like you got the inside source. Oh, I like it dark with a little sliver only on the eyes. It looks like you're just like an inside source.
I haven't had my camera. I was supposed to grab it yesterday. I left it yesterday, so I'm still using this camera on my laptop, which isn't as good. So
there it is, Pete Noor. You have no idea what we're talking about, do you, Pete?
No.
Pete Noor. You're going to look it up. Put on a shirt. Natasha, look it up. So the other visitor is Jake Weinberg, who we talked about in the bank.
Hold on. I think we should answer this before we move on, because Nick Isaac says, so they're going this route over spending for a guy like Wilson. I think that Miami's in a good spot to land Wilson right now.
Yeah. No. They're different players. This guy's a D tackle that's also could play the end. Wilson's the pass rush target.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yes, no problem. So Weinberg from FSU, originally from American Heritage and Del Rey. There's 2 American Heritages. He's in the other one. He was a kicker for FSU, 12 of 19. So you say, yeesh, 12 of 19. It's kind of like Carter Davis when we brought him in. Like, those numbers don't look great. He would be your big leg kicker, your kickoff guy. Only had 7 kick returns last year. And he also was attempting at least some of the longer ones. Jack Olson from Northwestern, who visited earlier, would be your target Chicago native. he'd be your target to be more of like your inside the 50 kicker where he was very, very accurate. He was like, I think it was perfect from 40 to 49. Last year was Olsen honorable All Big Ten. So the idea is this guy would be your Carter Davis, long field goal kicker and kickoff. Then Olsen would be your accurate short range kicker. Now, last year we did the same thing with Bert Auburn and Carter Davis to replace Borregales, who did them both. And it turned out that Carter Davis ended up being all the kickers, and his numbers improved. And his big leg was coached up. Shout out to Coach Coulter and that whole crew. And then he ended up just being the kicker. So that might happen too. But I think Miami is looking to pair a short range accurate kicker with a kickoff specialist long range guy.
Hey, their strategy worked this year, right? And the guy goes out there and wins the job. So,
yep. So someone's asking if Jack Olsen signed with anybody. No, he hasn't signed with anybody. I think Miami's got a great chance to get him.
I think you got a paid comment there.
There it is. Our boy CIA says, "Sup, boys? It's CIA. D, you're doing 5 shows a day, fam. Do you even go to court or trials anymore?" Got a couple of legal things going on, but I don't know what the court or trial that much, anyways. It's called it's not all practices are like you see on TV, as I learned quickly when you're a lawyer. It's not all like in the courtroom, Your Honor type of thing. But maybe I'll have to do that with some of these tampering allegations going around.
We've talked a lot of Portal here, and obviously that's what interests a lot of people here on National Championship week. But I just sent you in the private chat. I don't have access to it right now. I'm not signed into my account, but there is an article out now. You know how the Athletic, New York Times always does these kind of like they ask the coaches across the country kind of who's going to win the game. Apparently, someone just sent it to me and said that every coach has Indiana winning.
I love it.
So I just sent you the article. I don't know if you can. I don't know if this is
here,
kind of
I'll
like
read it
on
right
the
now.
spot,
So,
but it's an interesting topic. Yeah.
So here's what they say. So about quarterbacks, the X factor. Power 4 defensive coordinator says Mendoza is the best quarterback I faced in the last couple of years. By the way, so this is the Athletic. This is what the Athletics. Bruce Feldman, Kane grad, interviewed a dozen coaches. They all liked Indiana in this game. Which again, right where you want to be. Think back to 1983. Difference is we have more talent than that talent disparity in that game. I think we're the more talented team, but everybody picking against us right where we want to be is very similar to the Ohio State game. Anyways, I return. Power 4 defensive coordinator says Mendoza is the best I faced in the last couple of years. Can't be affected by pressure. Can't get rattled. On a given play, you can affect him with pressure and he'll make mistakes. Teams that have caused him problems are when they pressured him. Typically, they play man and he overthrew the ball, got antsy in the pocket, and took a sack. But it doesn't matter what you did in the play before. He's going to go right back to work. There's no sense that you can rattle him long term. I agree with that. So he's one of the few kids who actually reads through coverages and works through his progressions. I don't know if I'll have time to do that with Bain and Messidor, but let's see. He knows how to answer. He knows how to buy time. He's just dynamic enough to run for a first down when he needs to. It's just enough to be really frustrating. So that was a Power 4 defensive coordinator. Another Big Ten linebacker coach who played him said, seems like he's made of the right stuff and competitive. What impressed me the most out of Mendoza is one of our D linemen got a hell of a shot on him and knocked the wind out of him, but he came right back. Wonder if that's an Ohio State coach.
He
that
got
basically says, you
there.
can get him in a series, you can pressure him at times, but he's going to fight and swing the whole game like he did against Penn State. Before we move on to the other comments, Pete, I agree with all that. I mean, I don't think he's a guy that you're going to like rattle for a whole game. You're going to have to beat him for 4 quarters and just kind of outlast him a little bit because he is very
like you
tough
did against when you played when he was a Cal, because it took 4 quarters. It took until the very end. Obviously, the offense helped that, but I mean, it legitimately took knocking him out. Wesley, you know.
Yep. So exactly, you got to watch the targeting because he's tall. It's you can get under his chin a little bit. So they run a lot. There's another Big Ten linebacker coach talking about the scheme. He says they run a lot of RPO and they're masters of the back shoulder fades. We talked about that. That seems to be their go-to in critical situations. Mendoza reads it well and is really hard to defend. They're also a great screen team. Hard to get them off schedule, highly efficient. They're going to try to run 5, 6, 7 yards. And then the receivers are really underrated. They also highlighted Riley Nowakowski, who our guy Landon Tangwall, who we're going to talk here to in a second. He did a whole video on this guy saying he's kind of undervalued, doesn't get enough recognition, good part of their offense, blocking, catching, run game, basically a blocking guy that can catch the ball. So that's interesting. They talk about the just the improvement over the course of the year. Charlie Becker being a problem athletically, being their best receiver. I think we agree with that. 6'4", 204, looking like an NFL guy. I made fun of Mike Ryan for comparing him to Alec Pierce, another white guy, but I think that's an accurate comp. This is what the linebacker coach said. Becker kid came out of nowhere. We thought he was a tall strider, but he'll make some really good contested catches. You can tell he was a track kid. He can roll. Yeah, I agree. Omar Cooper, also a basketball player, number 3, who had that great catch against Penn State. So this is what's interesting to me. They're hyping up their offensive line and saying it's and by the way, remember, some of these coaches for Ohio State, you could tell they're reading this article because he'll be like coaches who have faced both compare, and obviously that's going to be Ohio State's the only common opponent. So they're anonymous, but that's who they are. Anyways, on Indiana, they say it's a cohesive group, hard to get in the portal, incredibly detailed, don't do much, very good at passing off movements. So, just passing on these guys when they're stunting or looping. They take a level of undisciplined. If you're undisciplined anyway, they can hurt you. They said the right guard, Bray Lynch, was the one they were targeting. But someone else said that Khalil Benson, the right tackle, was another one that they were targeting. So the right side of the offensive line, similar to Ohio State, I think is something you can deal with.
And A&M, right?
Yep. But
that's what Miami attacked.
Exactly.
And that's what Brooks Austin was talking about yesterday on his breakdown, is how Miami does such a good job of using Mesidor and Bain on the same side sometimes, because you're going to get one of them is going to get a one-on-one.
So here's the common opponent, which is going to be Ohio State, anonymous Ohio State coaches. They're talking about comparing the Indiana offensive line to Miami's offensive line. And they said in this article, Miami's offensive line's better. They said Malinois is as good as advertised. Here's what the defensive coach said. Again, this is an Ohio State coach. You could read between the lines. They're probably the best offensive line we face. They're massive up front. And what they do schematically with those tight splits, everybody's favorite on this show, it's very hard to get penetration unless you're bringing edge pressure. Here's funny, talk about Markel Bell. They said, he's so huge, but he doesn't move well. We thought we could take advantage of him, but he's this big behemoth who gets his hand on you and you're just stuck. I think that's true. I mean, you see the size, you're like, all right, he doesn't move. You can get him. And then you just don't account for the fact that he's too big. Brockermeyer, they're saying that Indiana could try to exploit him. We didn't think he was strong. If you get your hands in his chest, you push him back 4 or 5 yards. We thought he was the weak link of the unit. We were trying to attack him all day. We probably should have pressured them up the middle more than we did. Again, this is Ohio State. So
I've been hearing all playoffs that the teams were going to attack Brockermeyer, and it hasn't really seemed like an issue, D.
We talked about it before the Ohio State game.
Yeah.
So, it's interesting what these guys are. I'm encouraged, Pete, because what the coaches are talking about is the same stuff we've been talking about in a lot of cases, except for, of course, the Miami win over Indiana, which we'll get to the end of this. On the run game, they said they want to grind you out. That's Cristobal. He just wants to pound the rock and pound you into submission. Mark Fletcher fits exactly what they need to do and fits Cristobal's whole mass kicks ass mantra. Another rival coach compared Fletcher to Derrick Henry. He's tall and strong. He'll take some whacks, but it doesn't seem to faze him. He's not going down. Then all the other offensive linemen are coming in, pushing the pile forward for another 10 yards. DB coach said, I saw this kid in high school. I saw him play live and said, this dude is an animal. I told our staff we got to do a good job of tackling him and wrapping up, and he got us. This is a long article, man. Bruce Feldman was working in this one, Pete. So anyways, talking about the offensive line mindset, he says that's all over the field. They can tell he's an offensive line coach at heart because you see guys like Malachi Tony blocking. It's just a cultural thing, which we've talked about. Then he says it's the size of the O-line, the size of Fletcher getting behind the O-line, but it's also the way their receivers sell out and crack support. Again, culture. It's good to see because it's showing up on tape. We know this, but other people are acknowledging it. Watch them against Texas A&M, and most O-line coaches like Cristobal understand this. You bring in the receiver and crack the extra run defender, the safety, and then you're making corners if it bounces outside. And then when it starts to get outside, Fletcher hits it inside. When you start to guess outside, Fletcher hits it inside. When they motion into the C-gap area and they crack on a safety, you can see run after run. That's the difference. They're getting really good push inside and making the DBs tackle. On the receivers, they said Tony's really special. said a DB coach who faced Miami in the playoff. He has really good balance and body control, and his lower body is much stronger than that of a typical freshman. They're going to find ways to get him the ball. He's playing like a senior in how he understands and reads situational football. And it's not like he's just playing one position. He's playing all over the freaking field. You don't find that in a freshman. They do so much with him that you wouldn't think he's able to compartmentalize all of that and do every single thing they're asking him to do. He's unbelievable. They said CJ Daniels and Keelan Marion, they call him okay. They say they'll throw some tunnel screens to get the ball in space to Tony, let him work. We were too soft in coverage. We should have pressed Daniels and Marion earlier because those guys are all right. You do have to game plan for Tony because he's elite. He can throw it, make you miss, break tackles. So it sounds like they wish they made Marion and Daniels beat them more, which we thought teams were going to try to do. So again, reading this, Pete, I feel pretty good that we weren't that far off on what these teams were trying to do to us as far as breaking it down ahead of time. It's no secret showing the tape.
Yeah, no, I think what you really, their offensive line's getting a lot of credit, but it's the same thing we've talked about. Like you can't, it's hard to judge power until the ball snapped. Right.
Yep. So he says with Beck, he says, I think Dawson's done a good job of keeping it simple for Beck. This is an Ole Miss coach. He gets a lot of easy reads. You're either going here or going there. If not, pull it down and run or throw it away. He knows their defense is good, so they'll be in games that they don't turn the ball over. If you look at games they lost a turnover battle and weren't able to score in the red zone. Of course, we saw that with SMU and Louisville. Beck is more confident than when we played him last year when he was at Georgia. I think a lot of that has to do with his offensive line. Are you hearing this, CJ Bailey and all these transfer quarterbacks? Fafita. His O-line at Georgia was just okay. We had like 7 sacks. This year, we only got 2. This is the Ole Miss coach again. He's making the right reads and checks to get in and out of things to keep them out of harm's way. He checked to a screen on third down and got a big first down in the third quarter. Another defensive coach said that they're both good, but that I trust Mendoza a little more when it comes down to it. And he said basically he never hurt the Canes, but he made some great plays against Ole Miss. Question is, can he go 4 games without the self-destruction? So we'll see on that.
The couple paid comments I want to get to here. Jedi Joshua, appreciate your support. He's asking about Damon Wilson if he's visiting today.
I haven't seen that reported. We could find out. We felt that's a possibility.
I think Gabby said that it's there's some smoke around it. I would say that Miami feels good about him for sure, and it'd be surprising for a guy who's already taken visits to not take a visit to Miami. At this point, I still think Miami's going to limit the amount of visits that happen this weekend, because they're in game prep mode. So I don't think you're going to see a bunch of kids here, but a guy like Wilson, who's a premier target here, probably the biggest target outside of quarterback. I would expect him to be on campus.
Yep, and we've been saying that we think Miami is the logical fit, and they're going to pursue him aggressively. And you combine those two things, I think Miami. If I were to bet, I'd say Miami has the best shot at him. Obviously, it's a high stakes recruitment portal. You never know what happens. Texas Tech always looming. They need another guy to replace Bailey and Romello Height, but I think the fit of Miami makes sense, Pete. And I say we've both highlighted him as kind of like, if you're going to watch one of these premier names on the portal board, this is the one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, at a position that you've expected them to spend big at too, right? Like the Seton name popped up, and I don't think, other than trying to retain Markel Bell, I don't think they had a big money target on the offensive line necessarily, because you've invested so much of the high school ranks there and you trust what you've got there. But I still think they need to bring someone in here. Maybe it's a guard. Maybe it's a Nick Brooks from Texas, who I think could be a possibility here. But I wanted to bring up this comment here, this question from Jorge Marrero, asking if we think the comments that Ty Simpson made make us look bad to other QBs. I mean, if other QBs see that and say that, hey, there's an offer of $6 million on the table, like we said, it may not be the same thing. I don't know how it makes Miami look bad. If Miami has to retort against that, it's our last 2 quarterbacks were the number 1 pick in the draft, and the other one now is playing for the national championship, and will probably be a top 4 quarterback picked here. So,
yep, I'm with you. It's an easy sell. So back to this article, which, man, it's a long article. Shout out to Bruce Feldman getting all these quotes. Talking about the Indiana defense, he says, or the coach who played at Indiana said, after playing them, watching them play Oregon, maybe there's Alabama, they don't have one player on defense that scares you, but they're just better than you. They do. Another guy says they do a tremendous job of destroying blocks. They engage blocks and get off them really well if you're playing straight. What they do also is a really good job is they have pattern games with their front. They cause a lot of confusion. We're going to talk about this with Landon Tangwall here later on in the interview, but just the movement that Indiana plays with. Brooks Austin talked about it yesterday. The film guy, you can check that out on the YouTube channel. So they said that Landino, the defensive tackle, does a tremendous job. He'll come free off combinations if you spend too much time trying to get the linebacker. Basically just movement, discipline, cohesion from Indiana on defense with that, as opposed to individual talent advantages. Said he's not a big pressure guy. Doesn't send 6 or more a whole lot, mainly 5-man pressure, but they do a great job of playing your schemes. They have great patterns. They junk it up. I think they do the best job, as a quote, of every run game I've seen, because they have every run game they have a different scheme for. A bunch of people do it, but they'll call a particular stunt, and if you don't run that run against it, you can kind of F them up. But Indiana never gets caught in it. We actually felt pretty good going into the game about us moving the ball, and our stats weren't that bad as a Big Ten coach. But we just didn't score a lot of points. They bend, but don't break. And this is where Miami, I think, is going to really need to deliver. They really tighten up in the red zone. Miami, a very good red zone team this year in terms of scoring touchdowns. Indiana, elite red zone defense. You can move the ball on them, but you got to finish in the red zone. You can't kick field goals or miss opportunities because they are going to score. Let's see, what do you say here? Just talking about the line games. Just how, again, it's funny, all the cheating allegations. You can see why the coaches have been saying that, because what they say is Indiana's defense almost never gets it wrong. They kind of always guess right with their line games. System's very good. They have older, smarter kids that watch a lot of film. You can tell they're good at knowing your tendencies and splits. If you line up and do something you've done a lot, they're going to have a beat on it, and they'll play that freaking ball off. Or pick that freaking ball off. Just, again, a lot of the same stuff. Play together, keep everything in front of them. Don't play a lot of man, a lot of zone. Do a really good job in the red zone. Really know the opposing team's tendencies. You get that repeated refrain here as you read this. Someone else who played the Hurricanes said, I think Indiana can slow the Miami's run game, but they won't stop it. Miami will hit a huge home run somewhere in there, and Indiana will really struggle to handle Tony, but Indiana is better suited to take advantage of Carson Beck and make him make bad decisions. Of course, we know by SUP, what's Miami's biggest strength? What do you think it would be?
Offensive line.
Both sides of the ball.
The trenches, yeah.
Yeah, defensive line. They're talking about Ruben Bain. Causes all sorts of havoc. This is a head coach who played Miami. He said Bain was the best defensive player we saw all year. He's such a violent player with heavy hands. Ole Miss offensive coaches said they're extremely good on defense. They're salty. They're fast. They're physical. They're as good. Look at this quote from Ole Miss. This is one to keep an eye on. They're as good up front as any defensive front in the SEC that I faced in years. Remember we had that whole show yesterday talking about something like that, Pete?
Yeah, it was
Florida, right?
Florida, yeah.
So Ole Miss says
and I
as good up
disagreed.
front as any defensive front, SEC defensive front I faced in years. Bain is something special. So all these coaches talking about Bain. Now they're talking about the back seven. Keontae Scott's a difference maker for him. He really sees the game and triggers so fast. They missed him when he was out. Now, then they're talking about the injuries at corner. They said, I think Indiana's better at wide out than Miami is at corner, even when Miami's healthy. So that's going to be something you have to deal with. And then Indiana's RPO. Miami's pretty vanilla. Part of what makes them good, they have a super small menu and kids know what to do, and they do it very, very violently.
Thank you, Coach Heatherman.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Coach Heatherman, I said.
Yeah, exactly. He said when Heatherman was at Minnesota, he blitzed the first guy out of the box away from the running back constantly. So, the running back lines up on one side, other guys coming in. Very good way to stop a lot of the shotgun running game because you got that extra bead where you got to hand it to the running back. They kind of come from behind and take you down with their speed when you're blitzing up somebody, especially a defensive back from the backside. Said he's not as predictable now. They do the best they can to tee off on the running game on first down, try to create long distance third downs. Very good run blitzers, Keontae Scott and Jacoby Thomas. We know that. But he thinks Indiana's good at taking advantage of that because they're really good at getting defenses into basically removing options from the defense and then taking advantage. Final thing, all the coaches pick them to win. They think no one's going to be able to. They think it's going to be hard to run the ball against this defense because no one's been able to. And they think it's going to be hard to rattle Mendoza, which I agree with. It's going to be hard to rattle Mendoza. I think we are going to be able to run the ball better than most teams have been able to do. And they're saying, can Miami be patient? Because if you get impatient, bad stuff's going to happen. They will beat you like they beat Oregon when you get impatient. So that's the scoop from rival coaches. And I hope all these quotes are prominently displayed in the locker room, in the heck, because we are the underdog for a reason. Not saying it's because we're not the better team. I think we are the better team I love this matchup. I think we're going to win. I'm sleeping like a baby. But what Indiana's put on tape, there's a reason why they're the favorite. They've been killing teams, and coaches are scared of them right now. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah,
About,
I think, and I
this
think like a
rival
lot of
matchup,
those
Steve?
teams, like Ohio State, for example, like they just have PTSD for knowing that they had more talent on paper and just kind of putting their hands in the air and saying these guys are so well prepared that it's tough for me to see another team out preparing them. I think that's what a lot of this is too.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of coaches, to your point, are seeing Indiana and kind of that's the talk of the town because Indiana is very much a coaching led team. When you see like what you can't just say like Georgia back in the day, well, they just had Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and all these guys. Here it's a coach led team. So if you're a coach and you see Indiana destroying teams, you are hyper fixated on that coaching advantage because that's your job. And you're like, what are these guys doing to prepare these kids that we're not doing? Because I can lose to Georgia and just explain it away and said, I don't have the money to get Jalen Carter, right? It's harder to explain it away when you get beat and blown out by Indiana. And you kind of look to them and say, what are they doing well? And with a lot of respect and admiration. So that's when I think they're just like if you're a coach's coach, like Signetti would be a coach's coach because other coaches watch what Indiana is doing with admiration. Whereas Miami, it's like they just got good players. They have a great culture. They play hard. You know, it's not something that other coaches are going to look at and say, what can we do? It's hard. It's extremely hard recruiting. It's extremely physical culture, and it's having resources to get good players. Indiana is a little more, any team theoretically can do what they've done. Now, no one does it, so it's obviously not that easy to do. But that's why I think their other coaches are so enamored with Indiana.
For sure. Got this comment here, D, from
go ahead and read it.
Ball Out Tommy Clips. He says, I need BUZZN to tattoo Mendoza into the dirt all game again, this time like he did last year.
Yeah, shout out to Ball Out Tommy. We got to hit him. He's a wide target when he runs. He's very strong. He's not a skinny guy. He's really actually he's like more like Andrew Luck. We made that comp yesterday. So you got to hit him square. BUZZN did a great job. Obviously, the targeting call could have gone either way. I thought it was clean. We got the right call there, but don't want to get targeting on him, but we definitely got to make him feel it when he runs because he does present a wide target. And I wouldn't call him a natural ball carrier. He's gotten so much better at it, but it's not like he's one of those guys like, you know, a Tim Tebow or Jalen Hurts where they like really know how to run and they get skinny and they avoid big hits and they're physical. You know, you saw with the spin move fumbling there. It's not what he's used to doing.
So, D, you want to intro Landon?
I do, but first, got to shout out my boys at Duffy's Tavern. Pete, we know that's going to be the spot to watch the game. If you're not at the game, they got the whole thing rocking and rolling. Shout out to my boy Junior at Duffy's Tavern. Shout out to Eddie. Shout out, of course, to Jose. Shout out to the whole crew, Lauda, everybody out there at Duffy's Tavern, where everybody knows your name. It is the home of the Hurricanes, right there in the edge of Coral Gables, the heart of Miami-Dade County. Don't go to Duffy's Sports Grill or one of these chains. You're going to go there and be like, what's this hype about? This is just an average sterile sports bar. Duffy's Tavern. Make sure it's the tavern where you get the liquor bottle chandeliers, 60-plus years of Miami-Dade lore on the walls, of Miami Hurricane championship history on the walls. And it is the spot for Canes fans this Monday. And we got a lot of parties there this weekend too. Duffy's is going to be popping. I'll be there on Saturday at least. Probably be there more than that. But it's going to be a lot of fun, man. And, of course, the watch party is going to be insane. So shout out to Duffy's. And Pete, before we get to Landon Tangwall, which we got here at the back end of this thing, we got to talk Canes hoops a little bit, man. Went back and watched that game against Notre Dame. I am so impressed. And tell me, you've watched every second of this team. I've watched most games. Some I've had to watch highlights if I've been traveling. I have not seen this team play uncharacteristically in terms of like their effort and their demeanor. Whether it's the 2 losses and then, of course, all the wins. They've been the same team Not the same quality. Sometimes, their defense will slip in terms of their execution, and obviously the ball goes in. Sometimes it doesn't. But in terms of the way they play, Pete, it seems to me very, very consistent because of the tone set by Trey Donaldson, True Washington, Ernest Uday, Malik Renew, and then the freshmen with Shelton Henderson, and who really impressed me in this last game, Dante Allen, lockstep with what those seniors are bringing from the top.
Yeah, and I mean, 10-game winning streak here. You mentioned the 2 losses. You were I forget if you were leading that game at halftime against BYU, but you were definitely within a couple points. I mean, DeBonsa really took that game over in the second half against Florida. You missed a lot of free throws. I mean, your free throw shooting was really bad in that game. If you shoot the ball any better there and shoot the ball any better in general, you're way more in that game than the final score indicated. It was still so early in the season. I think they were working through trying to figure out their identity and all of that. But you mentioned it. This is a team now that they've gone on the road here and won in the ACC. They have twice now against Wake Forest, a team that was a preseason like top 4-5 ACC team. Notre Dame at home, Notre Dame, not a great team. That's a middle of the pack ACC team, lower tier ACC team. But this is what I've said about this team. You're going to have a lot of opportunities to win games and grind down teams, which is exactly how you won that game against Notre Dame. It was a tie ball game at half. They come out in the beginning of that second half. Jay Lucas has done a great job. The adjustments coming out of halftime have been great. The same thing happened in the first ACC game against Pittsburgh. They went to a zone, completely changed things up. The other night, True Washington comes out of the gate with a big defensive play, sets the tone for Miami. And the depth of the team is really noticeable, D, because even the other night, Ernest Uday gets a couple early fouls. Salih Al-Tuntaj, his impact is not going to be seen in the stat sheet necessarily. He comes in there, plays a few minutes until Uday, is able to get back in there, and his impact has been really strong this season, just as not only as a rebounder, but a guy who is a major lob threat, kind of like a DeAndre Jordan type of impact there. Malik Renew, really, the other night had active hands, 5 steals. We know what he brings on the offensive side of the floor. And then the MVP to me, this year, for as much as Malik Renew has been the leading scorer, has been Trey Donaldson.
Yep.
The way that he sets the tempo. Which everything I heard about him when Miami got him was, hey, we want to get him more efficient, but they believe he was a guy who could win games for you down the stretch. He could be a big time shot maker, which you looked at his percentages and you're like, it's weird to call a guy like that a shot maker. But now you're watching him. He wants the ball in his hands at the end of the game. He's assertive with the basketball. Even if his shot, his outside jumper isn't falling for different stretches during the game, he's not afraid to shoot it. The mid-range game is there for him. And he's just quick and strong and decisive. His passing has been phenomenal in terms of his decision-making this season. Just an exciting group to watch, man. They are competing really, really hard.
Yeah, you said this yesterday on the show. I don't love this. Kentucky fans have Lucas on their hot board already. I don't love that. I mean, Lucas is doing such a good job, and obviously Kentucky's Kentucky. For college basketball, it's a tough job to compete with, but I do think he's in a pretty good situation here in the ACC with an athletic department that's behind him and the ability to get good players, right? It's not like he's not getting good players to Miami. One guy I want to highlight, Pete, that he's better than I thought he was, and we've seen it for a while now, so it's more just he's better than I thought he was before the season, is True Washington. If you look at his stats from New Mexico, he's averaging, and this is now his 3rd year, so he played not sparingly, he's a rotation player as a freshman, starter last year in New Mexico, now Miami. So true junior. His minutes are the highest they've ever been at Miami in the ACC. His field goal percentage jumped 7 points from what it was at New Mexico. His 3-point percentage is slightly up over the year before, pretty much the same. Free throw percentage significantly up, best of his career at 73%. Rebounds and assists are both strong. His defense has always been his calling card, 2 steals a game. And then his points, he's averaging almost 2 points more than he averaged last year at New Mexico. So he is elevated. When you would be a good defensive player, based on the reputation he had coming out of New Mexico and some of the highlights we saw, his offense is way better than I thought.
Yeah, I give Jack McClinton credit. Shout out to our boy Jack. We'll line up to get him on here in the next few days, maybe before we get the Clemson game Saturday on the road. But he said, look, he played for Darrell Wright's AAU team in Arizona, and Darrell Wright told him this guy was a bucket getter, and that's not how he was initially described to me when they brought him in. He was described as a really good, tenacious on-ball defender. I believe he leads the ACC or second in the ACC in steals, one of the top in the country. So that he's brought to the table, but his shooting's been good. The stroke looks good. He can get to his spots in the paint. And with all of these guys, the ball doesn't stick in their hand. I can really count on one hand the amount of times I've been watching a game this year. I'm like, man, that's a bad shot. It's one thing to miss a shot. That happens. But the decision making has been so good, and I give the staff credit for, obviously the defensive energy and effort's been good, but I think this is what happens when you bring in the right mix of guys. Even though their skill sets, at first we were like, is there enough shooting? But if you're getting to your spots on the floor and then taking advantage of what the defense is giving you, I mean, it's a pretty good method for success here.
Yeah, can I elaborate on that real quick, Pete? Because I agree. You read my mind. So I was pulling up the stats before you even said that, because I agree totally. As far as the decision making, and I would add to that just the quality of finishing, the strength and conditioning to be able to absorb those shots, and then just the skill level. Look at these field goal percentages, and we don't have the 2-point percentages. I would love to get those. I'm sure I can track them down somewhere for the team. We'll do some more analytics stuff as basketball season gets deeper. But look at just the straight field goal percentage. Uday's at 72%. Altuntas at 64. Obviously, those guys are finishers around the basket, but they're doing a great job. But then you move down. Shelton Henderson, a wing who shoots quite a bit, 62%. Malik Renew, 57%, and he's averaging a ton of points, 20 points, so over 20 points a game. Your guards, True Washington, 49%. Trey Donaldson, 48%. So these guys are, like you said, making good decisions when they get in the paint, and then they're finishing in the paint with strength and with good skill level around the basket.
Yeah, and that was something that was lacking on the teams the last couple of years, is ability to play through contact and finish through contact. We see it on the defensive side of the floor, but it's a big deal on the offensive side as well. And I just think, again, the depth of this team, you mentioned Dante Allen, right? Like he makes such winning plays. Noam Dovrat, the last couple of games, he's been hitting a deep 3 a game, and that, it's a weird thing to say. A guy who's only making 1 3 a game really is a threat, but when he's in the game, he's probably gonna let it fly. Has to stretch the defense just a little bit, bringing you some nice minutes there where he can kind of stabilize things, give Trey Donaldson, True Washington a blow. Again, he's probably playing 7 minutes a game or so, but it's impactful minute. I mean, there's only 40 minutes in the game, so you need someone to be a bridge. You haven't had that the last couple of years off the bench. He's a big body, 6'4", 6'5", can handle it a little bit, makes good decisions in transition. Not the most athletic guy in the world in terms of his side-to-side ability, so defensively, you're giving something up there. But with the way they play team defense, it's been good. Dante Allen, you mentioned him. He plays like a bulldog. The shot is still a bit inconsistent, but I love how he lets it fly.
Yeah,
right?
it looks
and he
good
can make
too.
them, and he can make them. Right? It's the percentages. I'm sure he will continue to improve those, but the shot selection's good, and I think that he's right where he needs to be. Missed some time with injury, so now has been back for a few games here. And even Timo Malovich, he had a big three down when that Georgia Tech game was getting tight the other day. It was like a 5-point game, 4-point game. He had a big three that I think kind of gave Miami the breathing room that they needed. He played 16 minutes the other night. And again, he's not filling up the box score necessarily, but defensively has been really good, man. If you watch him, he's a guy who can move his feet extremely well, has the length, getting stronger. I think is noticeably getting stronger. It's funny. I was just watching ACC Networks playing here, and they had a whole basketball segment, and they were doing a build a freshman segment using like traits from the best freshmen in the ACC. And the analyst said as a shooter, Timo Malovich, which his percentages wouldn't exactly show that. But I think when you see it, it's like, man, this is a guy who's 6'9", really hard to defend that shot. As he continues to get confidence here in ACC play, I think he can be a weapon.
Yeah, and look, college basketball is crazy with the movement, and he's an older player coming from the pros in Slovakia. But if we can get this guy developed, like if he plays like Wardenberg was here 4 years, right? And then the end of Wardenberg was completely different than the beginning on that Elite Eight team. So if you can get this guy 3 to 4 years, I think he can be really, really good, physical, skilled, confident, which he's still developing that part of it, just the confidence to do all the things he can do as a freshman. But look, we can talk about all this. This team, I think, obviously, I think this is a tournament team. I think it's a team that can be tough out in the tournament. The big question when you get to these tough physical games, which Miami will drag teams into that in the tournament, I feel confident they're not going to be like just a walkover for anybody. But Pete, the problem is, and they're saying in the comments, you get into these tough physical games, ACC tournament, deep into ACC play, NCAA tournament play, that free throw shooting's got to get cleaned up. You can't be this kind of team that goes to the line and is physical and is a finishing team around the basket and not be able to shoot free throws.
Yeah, Renew's an 80% shooter, so that's good. But Shelton Henderson gets fouled a lot. He's, I think, still in the 60s. Was like in the high 50s for a bit, and I know he's working on that. He had a game where he was 10 for 11 from the free throw line, and that was a good confidence boost for him. But still too inconsistent there. Trey Donaldson has not been super consistent there either. But again, that's you got to take some of the good with the bad with this team. I'd much rather be us right now than Florida State. Florida State hasn't beaten a Power 4 team this year, D. With their new coach who came from the NBA, Luke Laux, and had a lot of hype. I was a fan of the hire, but talent acquisition, man. You can come from the NBA, you can have all these great schemes. He came from the Warriors, let it fly, shoot 53s a game, great. But Jay Lucas brought in a top 10 portal class here, year one, recruited a 5-star in Shelton Henderson, brought in a top 40 guy in Dante Allen, a couple Euro guys who have been difference makers. It shows that's how you construct a roster in year one, by the way. So a completely new team. Really excited to see how he puts it together moving forward. Kentucky, stay away.
Stay away, Kentucky. All right. So
and shout out D real quick. Wanted to shout out to Rees Law, PA, of course. Basketball coverage here on Canes Insight, brought to you by Rees Law. Check out reeslawpa.com. This is estate planning. You want to protect the people and assets you value most. Plan your future so others don't. Schedule your free consultation today. This is Truss Wills. Shout out to our boy Josh Sarnoff in the comments. I know he connected with my dad and he's helping him out now with some stuff. So guys, go reach out to him and he'll take care of you.
All right. So I know a lot of folks want to get back to football because of the stakes. We're not forgetting. That's why we talked about it earlier. That's why we're going to talk about it right now with Landon Tangwall, who is one of the best content creators right now going as far as the national college football perspective. He was a Penn State offensive tackle, top 100 pick, top 100 recruit. Miami actually recruited him out of high school. He took a visit down here unofficially. So great dude, really put in a lot of work to study this matchup against Miami, Indiana. He really studied the Miami Ole Miss game. He thinks we have a great chance of getting after Indiana up front. I agree. So, let's get into it with Landon Tangwall. Hope you enjoy this video. Talked to him yesterday, and he really, really broke down the matchup. So without further ado, Pete, ready to rock?
Yep.
Landon Tangwall. We're on Twitter. If you're on YouTube, if you're on CanesInsight.com, you have seen this guy's content because he is absolutely killing it. Canes fans are loving it. It is really, really in-depth stuff on the trenches, on football in general. There's a former Penn State offensive lineman, top 100 recruit, played the game, studies the game, loved the game, and he is killing it right now. We had to bring him back on. That is Landon Tangwall. Landon, how we doing?
D-Money. What's up, brother? Appreciate you having me back on, man.
Listen, by popular demand, you know, you're in the trenches. You're on the message board. You're on CanesInsight.com, 7.8 million posts and counting, and you're out there posting stuff and getting great feedback. This message boards are dangerous, man. People can get at you sometimes, but they're loving it.
Bro, they are. But shout out. Your message board is top notch, bro. I love it. I'm even starting to consume some of my own Miami content on there. So CanesInsight, it's great stuff on there. You guguys are doing a great job. There
you go, man. Appreciate you. And look, your videos between the Twitter, between the YouTube, you've done so many great things. That just the smaller cut-ups on Bane and Noah, people like that. The in-depth video, the one you did on Miami's defensive ends against Indiana's tackles, awesome. The Ole Miss, if people are still reminiscing on the Ole Miss game, the Ole Miss final drive video, awesome. And you've just done a lot of stuff. It's hard to keep up, but it's all really, really good stuff. The tackle versus end matchup. To me, this is kind of the game. There's a lot of things going on, but this one is a big one for a lot of reasons. Close to your heart as a former offensive tackle. You studied Miami's defensive ends a ton. You studied the tackles. You put a ton into this video in particular. Just for those who haven't watched it, they're all going to watch it. If they haven't, they're going to watch it right after this video. But for those who haven't watched it, just what jumps out to you about this particular matchup, Indiana's tackles against Miami's ends?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing I say is you're not going to stop these defensive ends. But as an offense, if I'm going in and I am Indiana's offensive coordinator, I'm saying, okay, how can we figure out ways to slow these guys down a little bit? And so I dive into some of those aspects of it. And like I said, it's a completely just unbiased analysis where I look at every tiny aspect. And I'm going to be honest, but between these two tackles and DNs, I don't know if there's anybody on this planet besides those guys in those rooms in the Miami facility and the Indiana facility that have watched more of this matchup than I have, because I watched too much about it. And so I go into every single move that Bane and Mesidor use, and then I start to kind of go into Carter Smith, and then they kind of have a mix at right tackle. So Khalil Benson started this past game. He really didn't play that much against Alabama. It was mainly Johnny, who's number 72. So I kind of studied both of those guys. The biggest thing that stands out to me is that I don't think they're that good of tackles. And I'm not just saying that because I'm here on a Canes channel. I think right tackle is known to be a problem for them. And that's why they're interchanging guys out, and they have let up really a lot of sacks on that side. Now, the more interesting kind of prospect here is Carter Smith, the left tackle. And this is a guy that has only allowed one pressure in the last 4 games. So I pop on his tape and I'm thinking, okay, like, what am I going to see? And funny enough, so my offensive line trainer from home, big time guy from the Maryland DMV region, and he trains a ton of NFL guys. And before I even watched the Indiana tape, he does a lot of draft study and all this stuff. And so he texts me and he says, hey man, like, have you watched Carter Smith yet? And we always talk offensive line play. And I'm like, no, I'm actually about to this afternoon. And he's like, let me know what you think. Cause like, I'm not that impressed. And like, Carter Smith is looked at as a tackle that is absolutely going to be a guard. So you hear that talk with like Maui Nello, which I absolutely hate that. I think he needs to stay a tackle in the NFL. This is a guy that he can't move the way you want your tackle to move. But the biggest piece of his game, and you'll see this early on in the film study if you watch it after this, is his hands aren't very good. And he gets very grabby. And there is a lot of calls that I thought probably should have been holding on Carter Smith that were not called. He gets really outside. So it's not like a straight on punch all the time. It's a lot of hooking guys and kind of grabbing their jersey. And so he got called for a holding in the Alabama game. Mendoza tried to roll out of the pocket and he yanked someone down. But overall, I just have questions about these tackles, especially in 3rd and long, when Bane and Mesidor, and really everybody, even Lightfoot, when they get in these wide nines where it forces the tackle to have to move. I mean, like, I'm just telling you, when I see a wide 9 all the way out there, I'm thinking, oh crap, because I got to go backwards and I got to get out of my stance. And not only do I have to meet them and beat them to the point, and we know how quick their get off is. My God, it's like a sprinter stance out of that thing. Their arm action is beautiful in Bane and Mesidor. And so they beat you to the spot. And then they also have the power moves on top of it, where I'm going to try to get you off balance because I'm in this wide 9. I'm going to get off the football. And then if I get you off balance, I might just beat you around the edge if I beat you to the edge. if I see you're off balance and you get to the spot where we're meeting, but I can feel you're off balance, I might just put my helmet into your chest and try to bull rush you. So that's what makes it so hard. And these are 2/3 tackles, all of them that aren't that athletic. And so that's where I have worries for this Indiana offensive tackle room, that I just don't know how they're going to be able to cover these guys up. And now you start to look at it and so how can I scheme that? Well, they're going to have to, Shanahan over there, he's going to have to, their offensive coordinator, he's going to have to do rollout protections. He's going to have to do sprint out protections. He is going to have running backs and tight ends in the chipping game, and just take an extra second off of the rush. Because even if Bain's in that wide 9, if you can get a tight end that just gets in his way for a half a second, that's a whole nother second that Mendoza can be in the pocket. So those are things I expect to see, because you're not going to be able to leave these tackles one-on-one with Bain and Mesidor all day long. I just think that's going to get really, really ugly really quick if Mendoza wants to stay in the drop back passing game.
So I'm going to ask you a lot here, but you spent so much time studying these teams, meaning you studied the Texas A&M Miami games. I know you put out great content on that. You studied the Ohio State Miami game. You put out great content on that, and among other games, but I'm just focusing on Miami. And then, of course, the last game, I mean, you really went deep on that. So when you put Indiana's tackles, just this matchup, tackle versus ends, and you compare it to how you stacked up the last 3, meaning Texas A&M, Ohio State, Ole Miss, and having seen those games play out, what's different about this one, both in terms of not just the personnel on the edge, but also the type of offense that Indiana plays to counteract some of what Miami brings?
Yeah, when I was making that offensive tackle defensive end video, I was super happy when I rewatched the Ohio State game, and I said, this is pretty much Indiana. It's so similar from a standpoint of the offense. Julian Sayin likes to hold on the ball a little bit longer overall. So you look at Sayin's total time to throw average over the year, it's like 2.9 seconds. I think Mendoza's around 2.7 seconds. So they both hold onto the ball fairly long, but they both also at times, it'll be quick RPOs, quick slants, quick hitches, quick outs. So they both love those things. So that's where I was already kind of like, okay, they're similar in that aspect, but the tackles are incredibly similar. So that was my favorite thing about watching this. Like Austin Sareveld, who was the left tackle for Ohio State, he is actually really, really similar to Carter Smith in the sense of doesn't have the best movement, always has a pretty good base, and that's why he was kind of good all year long. But when he faced those elite defensive ends, it started to get ugly for him. And it was the same thing where he doesn't have a good punch. And if you don't know what I mean by that, if you've seen my Maui Noah cutups, like Maui Noah has the most elite independent hand punch where he just strikes the hell out of the guy's chest. Like Carter Smith and then Austin Sareveld for Ohio State are very similar, where they're kind of grabby. They get outside. They don't do super well when they're going against, like I said, that elite premier edge rusher, because they just normally they can hunker down against these bigger edge rushers because they're strong, and like I said, they have a good base. And sometimes if it's a speed guy that only has speed, they're good enough. But when you start to mix these guys that have the speed, they can work power moves, and they have it all. That's where these guys really start to struggle. So I saw a lot of comparisons between Austin Sareveld and then Carter Smith. And then pretty similar too between Phillip Daniels, who was Ohio State's right tackle, compared to Khalil Benson, who was Indiana's right tackle. And I think they're both guys that struggled to just overall move. Like I said, I don't think it was as bad, or I think it was a little bit worse, than the left tackle situation for Ohio State or Indiana. These guys, like Benson, can't get out of his stance. And so that's the hardest thing. And that's something that I saw a decent amount with Daniels, Ohio State's right tackle, is a lot of times Bain was just bending the edge. He was just, I'm going to beat you to the spot. I'm going to rip my arm up. I'm going to plant my foot and try to just get straight down the line to the quarterback. And so I've seen a lot of that from Indiana's offensive tackles too at right tackle. So that's why I really enjoyed that. So once again, if you watch that video after this video, you will see the similarities. I use a lot of the tape from the Ohio State game to say, hey, this is exactly how Carter Smith plays, or this is exactly how Khalil Benson plays on Indiana when we're looking at that Ohio State tackle play. So that was really nice to see. But like I said, I mean, once again, that you have to be an offensive line that is fully just communication is on point. You have full trust in each other, because not only are you going to get these elite edges, and then don't forget the interior. You got Moten, who's an elite pass rusher. I think Justin Scott's been rushing the passer really, really well lately. and they start to run these twists. And that's what's so hard. So now, you have all this stuff going on in your brain. I got the wide 9. I got to get out. He might bull rush me. I don't know. And then guess what? I also might get picked on a stunt play where I'm getting picked by the D tackle and Bane is looping inside. Like, this is why the Miami defensive line is so difficult. It's not only they have elite talent, you mix elite talent with elite coaching with your defensive tackle coach and your DNs coach. And then you also mix all of that with elite scheme where you're putting them in great position, where you're spacing them beautifully. And you can only run this type of formations because of the talent you have, because you got guys that can fill gaps, because and trust that your interior defensive lineman can hold down those gaps, because you got wide 9 techniques out here. Because sometimes if you just run that formation and you don't got the D-line to do it, you can get gashed in the run game and you can really get messed up. But it's a perfect formula that Miami has on this defensive line that allows them to do what they do. And so this is the game right here. If you can just create havoc for Mendoza and also keep this run game somewhat in check that they just lean on, I don't know. No one's really done it yet this year, so I'm excited to see Miami's defensive line try to really just kind of interrupt what this Indiana offense has going.
Yeah, you got me fired up just talking about it. And again, those of you who are new to Landon's work, he's giving it to you right now. But when you watch his channel and his Twitter, his X, he has cut ups, he has coaches film, and you really get into details. So you definitely want to check that out and like and subscribe to what he's doing. You have a term that I've never heard used. I'm sure it's common, but I just hadn't heard it. But I love it because we talk about ankle flexion and knee benders, waist benders, all that stuff. Shin angles, which you use a lot. I love it because it's a very good visual for generating power. Like, you can talk about all these other body parts, but if the shin is angled a certain way, that there's an explosive hit behind it. So talk about shin angles for the uninitiated.
I love this. My first ever film breakdown on YouTube, the intro was me talking about shin angles. So the biggest thing that a lot of coaches don't understand, and that's why I love this Miami staff, because they are ahead of the curve, especially mirror ball, is a lot of coaches think that I have to gain ground with my first step. That's what we've always been trained to hear. And you can gain ground with your first step, but it's actually all about where that step lands. And so if my shin is just straight up and down, that you can't accelerate. So the thing that people don't understand is that the laws of movement, that's how you accelerate. You push off and you stab back, and that's why track stars, that's why they're in the block, because they're already on an angle like this going straight out. And so when an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, whoever, when you have those shin angles that are propelling you into the direction you want to go, that's the most efficient way to move. And that's really something that I studied a lot when I was a player too. How can I move most efficiently? And that's what I found of doing a lot of just mechanical research of not even like football. I was reading books about just the overall human body and how we move. And that was a big thing that I came away with. And watching videos, I'm like, it all goes back to shin angles, and it goes into, making sure you're pushing the ground flat and away. You always want to, it's just natural. If you push in one direction, you go in the other direction. So do I want some of my weight pushing out and up, or do I want to make sure it's all pushing out? If it's all pushing out, all my weight's going to go forward now too. So, I guess the opposite direction from what I'm pushing. So I think that's really important. And that's something I just note. And when a guy has the ankle flexion too, when you have the ankle mobility, because some guys don't have the ankle mobility to be able to do that. So I think that's also pretty important as well. But yeah, I'm big on shin angles and just overall movement. That's why I get juiced up when I watch Maui Noah just do anything, because I'm like, man, this guy has some of the most elite movement I've ever seen.
Look at Ruben Bain with the shin angles too. And it's like, I remember having a conversation with a Miami staffer. This was maybe a year or so ago. We're talking about Bain and Maui Noah and how they made it. And they made it so early because they were early. They got on the field right away and played very well versus some other guys who I won't name, they maybe didn't make it. And one of the things that the staffer told me is he goes, I did not appreciate the importance of power. Everybody knows power is an important part of the game. It's not rocket science in that front, but like when you value certain things, you say, oh, this guy's long and he's coordinated and he moves that way. He's fast. But the power part of it, I think Miami in particular has really emphasized even more every single year, and getting guys that can generate power, get those shin angles so they're exploding into blocks or into whatever they need to do. So power, you were someone who's played the position. You're a longer guy yourself, an athletic guy. how important is power? And do you think it's something that is, I don't say underrated, but is that really we need to really focus on when we look at prospects and projecting guys?
Yeah. No, I think, I mean, the most dynamic thing is elite power with elite acceleration. I wouldn't even say speed. I think it's especially when you're playing O-line or D-line, when you have elite power mixed with that elite acceleration, that's when you start to become unstoppable on either side of the football. And so I do think it's incredibly important. And you got to find different ways to use power. So you think of it, a lot of people are just like, oh, bench press or squat. That's great. But you need to start to understand leverage. Okay, how do I use leverage? So a big thing that you'll see offensive tackles use, especially even not as much Bell, because he'll just kind of like eat everything because he's so ginormous, because that's what you can do when you're 6'9". But if you watch like Maui Noah, a lot of stuff of what guys try to do at offensive line play is lift the defensive lineman straight up. And why you do that, a lot of people are like, yeah, like you want to push them back, don't get me wrong, but the initial movement, if it is up, you're redirecting all their energy, all their force straight up into the air, which means that their energy is basically going nowhere. And you're taking the energy out of their rush or out of the when they're coming off right into you in the run game, and you lift them up, and then I can start to drive them forward. So I definitely think that's something that's important. So people always say low man wins. And yes, that's generally right. But the real correct term is actually the man with the most leverage wins, because I can be the low man. I can lay on the ground and you just lay on top of me, and I'm the low man. I'm not winning. I'm getting pinned down. But it's all about the leverage that you have. And that's something that Mirabal does a fantastic job. And then even these defensive ends, especially understanding the leverage they have in their pass rush. Okay, what point am I at in my rush? Am I at the top of the rush where I need to start thinking, I need to work a counter move back inside because he has ridden me out, and I need to either spin back inside, I need to shuck him upfield and work back inside. And so that's something too that I feel like Jason Taylor really talks about with his guys. I don't know, because I've never talked to him, but just from watching so much of their tape, I'm like, hey, these guys understand leverage in a different way than others do. And so when you start having this elite speed, elite acceleration, elite power, and understanding of how to actually apply all of it, that's when it starts to get dangerous. And that's what you've seen with Miami on both sides of the football.
You've been very generous with your time. We appreciate it, Landon. You got time for one more question?
Absolutely. I got all day for you, D-Money.
You're the man. I appreciate you, man. We'd have you for 3 hours if we could. And maybe cumulatively over the course of the offseason, because anytime you're doing something, we'd love to talk about it. But when it comes to the other side, Miami's offensive line against Indiana's defensive line. Now, you did a lot leading up to the Ole Miss game about the movement that Ole Miss plays with, and Miami's ability to catch movement and how that matchup might play out. That was something we talked about on the show, just all the stuff they do up front. I thought in the game, and I haven't broken it down to the level of detail that you have as far as the trench play, but it seemed like, run game, Miami did a good job catching some of that movement and hitting big plays. I thought the pass blocking maybe not as good as it's been in other games for Miami with some of the movement that they did relative to the players you're going against. This game with Indiana, they move a lot. I think they're probably more disciplined and efficient in doing it than Ole Miss. How do you see that matchup stacking up, run and pass, just Miami's offensive line against what Indiana's doing up front?
Yeah, so I'd say this is the best front seven in terms of everybody does their damn job, and it's so impressive to watch. They might not be the most talented overall front seven. Like, I don't know if there's any just like, I wouldn't label any of these guys like straight up game wreckers like Bain, but like everybody's really good. And everybody does their job. I mean, so the linebacking crew is something that I'm looking at with Elijah Hardy, who has like a 5% missed tackle rate all year, and it leads the team in tackles, just absolutely filthy. You're going to see him blitz a lot. Aiden Fisher, their middle linebacker, has been running that defense, and he watches film like no other. And then Isaiah Jones, 46, he's going to get sent on blitzes. He's going to be more coming off the edge a lot and boxing everything in the run game. These guys trust each other. And when I'm watching tape, I'm seeing like, hey, there's a play right there for Aiden Fisher, their middle linebacker, to go make if he wants to. But he like will fit outside because he's like, hey, no one has contain. I'm going to go make sure I have contain in case they bounce this. I trust that my brothers are going to get in there and make this tackle. And so like, I don't see any Superman football from this front seven. And that's what gets me impressed too. I do want to know, we're talking front seven. Devin Boykin, their nickel, is one of the best tackling nickel cornerbacks I've ever seen. Just does not miss a tackle and will fly down in the flats. So it's not only the front seven, but it's also these DBs that come down and tackle. Lewis Moore, the other safety, really nice tackler, number 7. So that's a big piece of it. I'm doing a full film breakdown. I don't know when this is coming out, but I'm doing a full film breakdown. It'll be out on Wednesday afternoon of the Indiana front seven and how they work. Now, I mean, up front, this is a defensive line that has suffered 2 season-ending injuries to their defensive linemen, and they're still humming along. So Kamara, number 6, their defensive end, a very good pass rusher, not elite, doesn't have elite movement, but he's going to do his job. He's going to win some one-on-one battles. Now, you start to look inside, and this is where it's interesting because we've all, heard that no one's over 305 pounds. Mario Landino, who was their backup defensive tackle to start the year, really, really good pass rusher. He's like 280 pounds, and he holds it down in the middle. Now, you're going to see some physicality. You get to meet a Nez Cooper down there, so let's see what you got. But it's the reason why they thrive is because they do so much movement, and that's how you get away with having these smaller guys. And it wasn't coincidental. They planned this because, hey, we're a defense that wants to move. Well, we're not going to have a 330-pound defensive tackle because that just doesn't make sense. So they're going to try to shoot gaps. They're going to try to mess with your run game. They're going to run those stunts in the run game. Like, they have stunts, and if you watch the film breakdown that I put out later, like, you'll see this. They have stunts that are stunts for the run game. They're trying to pick off the center, loop someone around, and they just create so much havoc where guys are shooting gaps. But the other thing it does when you run these stunts up front is it messes with the offensive line, and run game is so quick. It is so fast that their plan is, hey, we might not even get home on the stunt. That's the defensive tackle and the nose tackle. But guess what it does? It creates so much chaos for the offensive line. We're trying to pass this off. Oh, I'm trying to lean back on this guy, that our linebackers are coming free. And like I just told you, you got 3 straight killers at linebacker. And so, this is a squad that is impressive. And now, talking real quick in the blitz game, in the pass rush game, I watched this on tape, and this is going to be on the film breakdown too. They study the heck out of the offensive line calls. So when I was watching the Alabama game, and I know a bunch of guys that played for Haynes, their defensive coordinator, especially at JMU, guys at my high school. So I've been on the phone with a couple of them recently. They said that Brian Haynes, every single day, you have like a 6-page essay of the entire offense. He wants to know every little piece about them. In the offseason, he's making you study every single team that's coming up and every single one of their calls from the year before. I mean, it is not a coincidence that these guys are prepared. So what I see is they understand that if we present, as a defense, if I'm Indiana, if we present this look where we're going to put 3 guys up, pressed up on the right side, we know what type of call this offensive line is going to go with. And guess what we're going to do? Of those 3 guys pressed up on the right side, 2 of them are going to drop out, and we're going to bring the blitz from the other side. Because we know that this offensive line is going to try to slide to those 3 guys. And guess what? The moment they slide, there's only 1 guy there, and the whole blitz is coming from the other side. I've seen that 10 times on tape where they bait the offense into saying, hey, slide over here. And then guess what? Everything over here drops, and the blitz comes from the other angle. It's some of the most impressive work that I've seen. I'm actually getting goosebumps talking about it. D-Money, this is the stuff that I live for. So you got some great coaches going at it. So let's see what Miraball's got in store in this offensive line, because I would say this is an offensive line that's been very good, especially in pass pro. And I think Mark Fletcher is the best pass blocking running back in all of college football. I truthfully, believe it. Everybody was telling me that Keywan Lacey, all the Ole Miss fans, and I watched Keywan Lacey get his stuff blown up. So I didn't rub it in their face, but I wanted to because they lost. But I watched him just get absolutely jacked up by like Mo Torre like 2 different times. But that's I'm excited to see, because they have struggled at times. If there has been a struggle, it has been this blitz pickup. And you saw that. I mean, A&M, we've talked about that in the last show. A&M was really, really good at that. But that's just where I've seen a little bit of that struggle. It's generally not one-on-one pass rush. It is more when they're running those stunts, those twists. Can you pick that up? So excited. It's going to be a flat-out battle up front.
So listen, you have a ton of content out, ton of content on the way. Make sure Canes fans know everywhere that they can find you, not only leading up to this game, but through the offseason and going forward.
Yeah. If you just look up Landon Tangwall, Twitter, YouTube, it's the Landon Tangwall Show on YouTube. You can just type in my name. It'll come up. We're going to have a ton of coverage. And also, like I said, my plan is to cover all the college football. So I'm only a year and a half into doing college football media. I started basically right after I retired from football. I had to retire early due to concussions. And just started doing this, and I'm having fun. I was tired of covering just Penn State, and we also sucked this year. So I'm like, all right, let me venture off and cover some other teams. And I have thoroughly been enjoying it. So be on the lookout for a ton of coverage And throughout the offseason, I'm going to be doing coverage of basically all the top 20 teams going into 2026. So we will definitely have a Miami breakdown. But if you're also interested in these other top teams, we're going to be covering everything. So we'll have you fully equipped for the 2026 football season.
Cannot wait. Follow this man, Landon. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, D-Money.